insane how people waste up to $100 per month on unused gym memberships. That adds up to almost $397 million each year. The scary thing is that most people aren't even aware of their bad money habits, but these can ruin your finances in the long run. I've been there myself. So in this video, let's go through 10 money habits keeping you poor, and also what to do instead to finally start building wealth instead of losing money. This is something I've been guilty of in the past. When I started my job at the bank, I got my paycheck, and the first thing I did was to pay my rent. I was living in Singapore, a city with all the luxuries you can think of, and it was just so exciting to splurge eating out with friends, buying those shoes that I've been eyeing for a while, and booking that next trip to Bali. And after all of these expenses, guess what? There was hardly any money left to save. And this is a habit that most people have: paying yourself last. This is how most people do it. Spend their salary on rent and other living expenses first, and then invest the rest, which often amounts to zero. But here's the problem. If you continue to pay yourself last, you will never build any wealth. Instead, this is how rich people do it. Switch it around and pay yourself first. When you get paid, first chop off the amount you want to save, whether that's 10%, 20%, or even more of your salary, and put that aside. And then, with whatever is left, cover your living expenses, your rent, food, shopping, entertainment, and so on. And although this might sound impossible at first, you will find a way to make it work with the remaining money. You'll have to. The next habit is insidious, and most people, for all their good intentions, are just not aware they're doing this. It's an innocent habit that can lead you down the road to financial failure. Bad money habit number 2 is living in financial fog. So you're trying to spend your money responsibly, but what does that mean exactly? Is spending $100 a week on sushi a lot or not? Can you go on that vacation to Italy or not? It depends. To know how much you can spend, you need to have full clarity about these 4 things regarding your finances. How much you're earning, net after taxes, how much your monthly expenses are versus how much you want to spend. That's your budget. And ideally, these would match. What your net worth is, that is the value of all your assets minus your debt, and also what your financial goals are. Only if you have clarity on all of these things can you know if a $5,000 trip to Europe is something that you can actually afford or that will mess up your finances. Nowadays, there are a lot of financial apps that can help you track your finances, but personally, I like to use Excel because that way I can set up my financial overview exactly the way I want it. And if you're interested to know how I do this, let me know in the comments down below and I'll try to make a video about that. Once you know exactly where your money is going and how much money you really have, it will be easy to make good financial decisions. But there's one thing that's holding people back the most, and that's something that's difficult to admit, and I'm also struggling with from time to time. There's a rational side to us humans that tells us what we should do, but there's also the emotional side that can throw our efforts off track. Another bad money habit that's hard to kick is making emotional purchases. That's when we spend money not because we really need to, like on a pair of waterproof gloves to keep us warm in the winter, but to deal with our emotions. Our busy lives make us feel tired, anxious, lonely, and buying stuff can be a quick fix to heal our negative emotions. Instagram shows us ads of expensive cars or branded sweaters that cost $300 that make us feel we're not good enough unless we buy them. Our friends might go on a luxurious weekend trip and we might feel left out if we don't join them. It's also super easy to just throw money at a problem. Just buy something new instead of dealing with the frustration of fixing it. And companies prey on this by showing you ads and marketing gimmicks that will push you to make impulse purchases. A survey showed that Canadians spent almost $4,000 each year on impulse buys. You see something that looks nice, cool, or cute and buy it without much thought and later on regret it. To shake this habit loose, you first need to be aware of how your emotions affect your purchasing decisions. Ask yourself, do I need this or am I just buying it to make me feel good? If I buy this, will it make me rich? For example, a book that teaches you about investing, or will it just make me look rich but in fact make me poor, like that $2,000 handbag? The key question to ask is, if I spend money on this, will it genuinely improve my life and bring me closer to my financial goals? While some people spend money too easily, some people go the other extreme. They try to spend as little money as possible to the point of being cheap. And here we need to make a clear distinction between being frugal and being cheap. Being frugal means being economical with money, not spending more than you need while getting good value. For example, buying things in bulk or on sale. Being cheap is when you spend as little as possible, oftentimes sacrificing quality, like buying a $2 t-shirt from a questionable website. In the worst case scenario, the t-shirt shrinks after one wash and you have to buy a new one. It also leaves stains on 10 of your other clothes in the washing machine, so those are ruined. And the graphic print uses very cheap and toxic materials which harm your health in the long run and cost you even more in medical expenses. So spend money where spending is due. Another way you can make yourself poorer by thousands of dollars is chaotic spending. And this is related to, but a bit different from emotional spending. With emotional spending, you spend money to make yourself feel good. With chaotic spending, you pay too much for something or overspend because of a lack of planning. When I'm on top of everything, I meal prep to save money. I plan out exactly what I need to buy at the supermarket and stick to my budget. But there are hectic weeks where I just fail to do that. Midweek, my fridge is empty, so I order food delivery from Uber, which nowadays is just so expensive. Another thing Canadians spend billions of dollars on without getting any additional benefits are bank fees. It's crazy, but so many people do this, paying a below balance fee of $18 or so because their balance drops below a certain amount, paying overdraft fees, or an $8 ATM fee for withdrawing money at a bank that you don't have an account with. Not to mention subscriptions. 73% of Canadians are trapped by recurring subscriptions. A streaming service here, a newsletter there, and Amazon Prime, and before you know it, you have $150 in monthly subscriptions. The worst thing though is unused subscriptions. So make it a habit to comb through your subscriptions and unsubscribe what you don't need. Just by planning your expenses in advance and being more intentional about your spending, you could save thousands, even tens of thousands over the years. Now, here's a scary problem people have when they don't control their spending, and this is the worst financial trap. The next bad money habit keeping you poor is using bad debt. It starts with buying things you can't afford. Swipe, 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 and forget all about it until that heart-stopping credit card bill arrives and slaps you in the face. And there are many other bad credit habits. One is using buy now, pay later schemes where you buy an item and pay it off in 6 payments or so. These programs lure you into buying stuff that you can't really afford by saying there's no interest. The lender then counts on you forgetting to pay an installment at some point and charging you a late fee. What can also wreck your finances is getting into the habit of paying your credit cards late or just paying the bare minimum. A survey found that 10% of Canadians only make minimum monthly payments on their credit card. Let's say you owe $5,000 on your credit card at an interest rate of 25%. If you only make minimum payments of, let's say, $100 each month, it will take you over 25 years to pay it off. Plus, you'll pay interest charges of almost $18,000 in the process. Here's what to do instead. Use your credit card as though it were a debit card. Only buy things with your credit card if you have the cash to immediately pay it off. There's also the trap of maximizing reward points at all costs. This is when you overuse your credit card to buy stuff you would normally buy just for the sake of maximizing reward points. And don't get me wrong, points are great, but if you spend an extra $1,000 on stuff you weren't planning to buy in the first place just so you can get $40 in cash back, something's not adding up. Relying on bad debt usually goes hand in hand with the next bad habit, and I know it's unbelievable, but 50% of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck according to Equifax. And this is not just a pain in the ass. It goes much deeper than that. This habit is a handicap. It puts you in a state of depletion and scarcity. When you're in this frame of mind, always thinking about how to make ends meet, it's really hard to plan your long-term finances. To break the cycle, you need to have an emergency fund, ideally covering 6 months of your living expenses or at least 3 months. If you don't have an emergency fund yet, commit that you will start building one now. Start saving up a 1-month buffer and work your way up. Once you have some money saved up for emergencies, you'll no longer be in emergency mode. You can chill a bit and finally start thinking about your financial future. We've covered most bad habits connected to spending, but there's one sneaky habit where people unconsciously give away tons of money to the government, and I bet you can guess what that is. The next bad money habit is paying too much in taxes. Now, I'm not a tax advisor or a tax consultant, and I don't know half of the tax rules, but you don't have to. Just by understanding some very basic rules about taxes, you can save 10, 20, sometimes even 30% of your paycheck. You can easily pay less in taxes if you make use of tax advantage accounts. Here in Canada, we have what's called the RSP, TFSA, and FHSA. Money that you put in your RSP can be deducted from your taxable income. So instead of, let's say, $80,000 that gets taxed, now only $70,000 gets taxed because you put $10,000 of your income into an RSP. And when you invest money in a TFSA or a tax-free savings account, your money can grow tax-free, meaning you don't need to pay any taxes on any profits you make, even when you withdraw that money. If you want to learn more about these tax advantage accounts, then click on this video up here. Finding ways to save more money is really important, but obsessing about it can backfire, so make sure that you don't get stuck with this next bad money habit, which is fixating on savings. Here's the problem. Given your income, there's a maximum amount you can save. No matter how frugal you are, there's a minimum expense that you'll always have. That puts a cap on your savings. To grow your wealth faster, even exponentially, you need to increase your earnings. The great thing is that there's no upper limit to your income. I'm not saying it's easy, but there are many ways that you can increase your income. You can ask for a raise, and if you don't get it, you can move to another job or even move to another city or country that pays you more. Pick up a side hustle or even start a business. Of all the bad money habits, the next one might have the worst long-term effects. It's something that you can't make up for, and that's the habit of postponing investing. I must admit, embarrassingly, that I had this habit for the longest time. During my early days working in banking, I was managing projects to increase customers' wealth holdings with the bank, and I kept telling myself, I gotta start investing too, but I just kept postponing it. The benefit of investing just didn't seem real enough to me at that time. You might be experiencing something similar. The idea of investing pops up, but then you just dismiss it, telling yourself, not today.
Not today.
I eventually found out that investing is the most important money habit to have, and starting early is key because then you'll have more time for the money to compound. Say your target is to have 1 million by the time you're 55, and let's assume the average rate of return is 8% per year. If you start when you're 20, you only need to save $467 each month to get there. But if you start investing 10 years later at 30, you will need to save $1,100 per month instead, which is more than double. And nowadays, there are so many online investment apps that make investing as easy as online shopping. The one I've been using since I moved to Canada is Wealthsimple. The app is just super easy to use, even for beginners, and also they charge no commissions for buying and selling stocks and ETFs. Just in case you want to try out Wealthsimple, you can use my referral link in the descriptions below. If you open an account and fund it, both you and I will each get a referral bonus of $25. And I know it's hard to get started, and even if you've started, it's hard staying disciplined. There are all sorts of excuses we tell ourselves to put off investing, like I don't have money, I don't know how to invest, or I just don't have the time. And here's the one thing I realized about money that I wanted to tell you about. I used to think that this one big thing that I'll do someday or some event in the future will solve all money problems. But I learned the hard way that that couldn't be further from the truth. I realized that the path to good finances and wealth was the result of tiny habits and tiny decisions I made on a daily basis, and that includes investing. So if you finally want to learn how to invest and invest your first $100, then make sure you watch this video next.